Good afternoon, everybody. It is a little late for our Ask Me Anything hour today, but we had a lunch and learn here today, so I appreciate your patience if you were trying to watch at 12:45. It's at 1:45 today, but we're still going to give you some really interesting things to think about today. First of all, I want to say if you have any questions while I am doing this for the next 15 minutes, go ahead and type them in now so we can answer your questions live. Or if you have questions that you think of while you're watching this and it's not during that live time, just email us at info@strongonhealth.com. I'm Dustin Strong, this is Strong on Health, and this is where we answer any questions when it comes to your health, wellness, nutrition especially. And I have a little bit of a guest appearance virtually from Nurse Jackie. Thank you, Nurse Jackie, for your contribution. From Tuesday, she actually sent some information on top of what we were talking about. We were talking about uncontrolled diabetes and erectile dysfunction. And I just want to share what she shared with us because this is very helpful, and I love getting contributions from the healthcare professionals out there who are learning and growing with us and helping us to do everything we're doing here. She says if a person with uncontrolled diabetes and it's causing erectile dysfunction, I am correct, it does cause this, they could be at risk for retina damage in their eyes with strenuous exercise such as lifting weights, especially anything where their head is in the dependent position, head below the waist. As you say, it is due to microvascular damage and high viscosity of the blood due to high glucose levels and high triglycerides, often combined with dehydration from sugar wasted in the urine. So this can be a bad combo for the eyes, so weightlifting should be on hold until glucose is controlled. So thank you for that, because I did suggest making sure you're doing some weight training a little bit to get your testosterone levels up when you're trying to achieve what we were trying to correct there. So it is important to be careful given the condition that you have to maybe sometimes temper that exercise. Well said, Nurse Jackie, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Keep those coming. Okay, next thing we're gonna talk about is, I'm gonna skip this one and I'm gonna save it for the end. Gout, we've got some questions about gout. How does phosphate liquid help? Okay, good question. So gout is going to be a condition of kidneys being a little bit weak, but also it has to do with protein metabolism and an inability with the protein metabolism because those proteins are where they're not supposed to be, and we create these crystals because of that. So the kidneys kind of take the brunt of that. So the things we have to think about are supporting the kidneys, of course, and you want to support the kidneys with things like potassium. We know that 95% of us are not getting enough potassium, and the kidneys really need potassium. So I would focus on good potassium-rich foods. It's going to be things like your black beans, like your avocados, bananas are okay. There's several other foods that are great sources of potassium. But you also want to remove the things that are creating that condition. And that's why we want to talk about removing all of like processed, refined sugars and carbohydrates. Those are going to be a major contributing factor to that and increasing that problem there. But also cooked meats, overly cooked meats and too much meats, organ meats, those types of things, you're going to want to reduce those or ensure that your digestion is 100%, and that's what we're talking about next week. But I would reduce those if it were me and I was starting to experience those symptoms, you know, that big toe with the accumulation of those crystals. I would try my best to stop putting anything into this equation that is creating that condition and giving the kidneys a hard time, and I would make sure I was helping the kidneys. So phosphate liquid can come in a way that it is helpful for the kidneys in some ways, but we're thinking in terms of, when we think of phosphorus as a nutrient that we have to have, we're thinking of the balance with calcium, really. And when we get calcification, sometimes it's because we do not have enough phosphorus in our body to keep the calcium in solution. So it's about taking, again, the stress off of the kidneys as much as possible. And then, of course, I would do cherries. Cherries, like we had in the Strong on Health box, cherries are a great addition for kidney health. So again, removing those things that are going to contribute to that, that's going to be those white refined processed foods, overly cooked meats, too much meats, and making sure that you're getting foods that are going to contain potassium and support the kidney function. Okay, so that's gout. Is it common to develop a rash on your upper torso, including underarms, after starting a parasite protocol? Okay, so we'll talk about parasites in depth at another time, but I guess what the question here is probably referring to what we would call a Herxheimer reaction. Sometimes when you have a die-off in the body of any type of pathogen, whether it be bacterial, fungal, or viral, you can have your body's struggling with the elimination of the carnage or whatever is left over. And a lot of things can happen. if you're starting to balance the microbes in your body and you are removing portions of them, sometimes things like heavy metals can be hidden in these funguses and all kinds of things that your body's going to try to do to balance it. So sometimes a rash is your body just trying to get things out, trying to get it out through the skin. Now, I'm not saying 100% that's what this is, but if that's where we're going with this thinking, it does make sense. And what that means is you really need to support your liver's ability to be able to take those toxins out through the appropriate channels as it tries to push it through the skin. The skin is an eliminatory organ, but it tends to be a backup eliminatory organ to the kidneys and the bowels and the bladder. So you want to make sure that you're getting things out that way. And there are certain foods that can be really helpful for that. A lot of times Spanish black radish is an excellent thing to help with that, with those sulfation pathways, to help bind to those toxins and pull them out. There's multiple things that can happen with that. That would be my first thought, is supporting the liver and supporting with all of those little things that it needs to make all that function work, and hopefully that's what you're missing. But that's not to say that's what's causing it, so I would want to know more about what's going on there. But is it uncommon, I guess, is your question? I don't think it's necessarily uncommon, because I think a lot of people have, you know, a need for a little more liver support, and then when you put more on there and it's not able to do the job, that can happen. Okay, finally, I want to talk about this situation. We had a young man who, he's 1 day younger than me, so he's a young man, Brian, and he was taking a whole food supplement, and that we had discussed and we had looked at, and trying to make sure that he's, you know, getting things into his diet that are missing, because he's eating the standard American diet. And he had a doctor tell him, throw that away, there's too much of this in there, and then told him to take another supplement called a Men's One Daily. Is that what it is? Men's One Daily. And then I looked it up, and here's the point. It has the exact mineral in it that this doctor was telling him that shouldn't take the whole food nutrition for some reason. And I really dug into this. I looked for an association with manganese and any type of scientific literature that had anything to do with the condition that they were saying he's going to have a problem with, and I couldn't find anything. And that's not to say that I have access to all of the research that's available in the whole world, but I was really hard-pressed to find that. And my other concern was, well, manganese is something that is essential for life, and so that's why it is in both of these nutrients. So the point is, you have to be confident in understanding what whole food nutrition does for your body, and really be confident enough to question people. Question why that was changed. Why did they suggest this vitamin, now that it's got all these synthetics in it, it's all kinds of chemicals in it, it's got the worst form of calcium that makes it really hard for your body to do this. So this poor gentleman was led to invest in something that I would not have invested in myself for multiple reasons. And then also, okay, well, the condition we're talking about is ALS, okay? So when we're talking about that, I'm looking up articles that are talking about all kinds of foods that contain massive amounts of manganese in them, saying that you should eat this and you should eat that. Raw nuts and seeds are a great source of manganese. Can you get too much? Absolutely. You can have too much of anything. But when you're getting things in a whole food, you're getting them balanced with so many other things, so your risk of getting out of balance with that is diminished greatly, because you're getting all these other things in there. But when you're taking a supplement that has synthetic forms of it just piled in there, you're creating more of a condition. So my concern is, when someone is telling you about what nutritional products to take, make sure that they're actually looking at the label before they tell you what to take in that. Don't just tell you to go take one thing off the shelf without knowing that. Make sure you're questioning them. Ask them why. Why would you choose this one? Can you tell me about it? What do you know about that product that's specific to me? As opposed to just saying, okay, well, they told me I need to take this, so I'm just going to take it. You still have to ask those questions, because it really shocks me that they were just told to take something completely different, but it was for a reason that was existing in both of those. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to say, can you tell me why? What do you know about it? Please make me feel comfortable and know that I should be giving all of my faith and confidence into you as somebody who's in charge of my health, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, if you say so, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Because in this case, it really led him to a much worse situation, and that's where the concern is. So be very confident that whole foods are going to be packaged the way that they have for a very long time, so that our bodies can use those. And synthetic, isolated compounds gobbed together in a nutritional supplement are going to respond to the body very differently than the way that they were produced for us in nature. So have the confidence to be able to ask those questions. We have to learn more about how this body works, and we have to start with learning it ourselves so that we can be confident asking those questions. Okay, rant over. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If any of this information was valuable to you, or if you felt like it was something that you think a friend of yours needs to hear, please do share this video. Please make sure that others are knowing that they can ask questions here, and so that we can look at products that people are bringing to us and let you know the why and the how and the what of whether or not we feel like it has value or it doesn't have value, and why. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys, and we will be back next Tuesday. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.